The day the aliens arrived was sunny in Washington, D.C. No storms, no clouds, just blue skies that seemed to mock the chaos below. News stations around the world showed the same images, 12 different ships, each one stranger than the last, hovering over major cities across Earth. Olivia Wright stood in the Pentagon's Situation Room, her uniform crisp despite being awake for 36 hours straight. At 42, she had seen enough in her military career to stay calm when others panicked. The North American Space Force commander watched the screens with narrow eyes, noting how the alien vessels maintained perfect position despite Earth's winds. "So they want to talk," said General Patterson, his voice gruff with lack of sleep. "And they asked for you by name." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "For me specifically? How do they even know who I am?" "They know a lot about us, apparently," said a woman in a dark suit who hadn't introduced herself. "They've been watching." The room felt colder suddenly. Olivia thought about her missions on the moon, her work with NASA studying the bacterial samples from Mars, her command during the resource wars. What had these visitors seen? What had they judged? "When do I meet them?" Olivia asked. "Now," said General Patterson. "They're waiting." The meeting happened in a hastily prepared conference room at Andrews Air Force Base. The alien who called himself Ambassador Zelek stood nearly 7 feet tall, with skin so thin that Olivia could see blue fluid pulsing through vessels underneath. His 4 eyes blinked at different times, creating an unsettling rhythm as he spoke in perfect English. "Commander Wright," said Zelek, his voice oddly musical, "I represent the Galactic Confederation, an alliance of civilized species who share the stars." Olivia kept her face neutral. "I represent Earth. We're honored by your visit, though surprised." Zelek tilted his head. "The surprise is understandable. We have observed your species for generations, waiting for this moment." "What moment is that?" Olivia asked. "Your experimental warp drive activated yesterday at 0600 hours. It created a ripple that our sensors detected. By achieving faster-than-light capability, you have triggered the protocols of contact and testing." Behind Olivia, she heard someone whisper, "How did they know about the Horizon project?" The warp drive test had been conducted in secret at a facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Only 12 people on Earth were supposed to know about it. "Testing?" Olivia kept her voice steady. "What kind of testing?" Zelek's upper eyes blinked while his lower ones remained fixed on her. "The test is administered to all species who reach this technological threshold. It determines readiness to join interstellar society. And if we refuse this test?" All 4 of Zelek's eyes blinked at once. "Refusal is not possible. The test is mandatory for all developing species. Without passing, your species will be contained to this solar system by force if necessary." The room went silent. Olivia felt the weight of 7 billion lives pressed down on her shoulders. "How many species have passed this test on their first attempt?" she asked. "None," said Zelek simply. "Most require centuries of preparation before success. Some never pass." Olivia heard muttering behind her. Fear was spreading through the room like a virus. She straightened her back. "How long do we have to prepare?" "Preparation time is not granted. The test begins in 24 hours. You will select 4 other humans to join you as Earth's representatives." "That's not enough time," protested a presidential advisor. "We need to consult with world leaders. Prepare." "The parameters are fixed," interrupted Zelek. 24 hours, 5 representatives. The location will be neutral space." Olivia stepped forward. "What does the test involve?" 3 challenges designed to assess problem-solving abilities, ethical frameworks, and psychological resilience. "I'm not permitted to provide details beyond this." After Zelek left, the room erupted in shouting, arguments about who should go, whether this was a trick if Earth should try to fight. Olivia tuned it out, focusing instead on what she had observed in the alien. There had been something in Zelek's tone when he said no species had passed on, their first attempt. Not pride, but certainty. As if failure was the expected outcome. 6 hours later, Olivia had her team. Lieutenant Andrew Martinez, a pilot with experience flying experimental craft in extreme conditions. Dr. Catherine Patel, whose work in quantum physics had helped develop the very warp drive that brought the aliens to their door. Security Chief Greg Daniels, a former Special Forces operator known for finding solutions where none seemed to exist. And Communications Specialist Samantha Wilson, whose gift for languages and human behavior made her invaluable for understanding the aliens. They gathered in a secure facility, 5 humans who would carry the fate of their species. "I won't lie to you," Olivia told them. "This sounds impossible. No species has ever passed on their first try." "So we'll be the first," said Greg with a shrug. He was cleaning his nails with a pocket knife, seemingly unbothered. "The odds are against us," Catherine said, her eyes fixed on data scrolling across her tablet. "But I'm finding something interesting in their ship's radiation signature. It suggests they evolved on worlds with much less background radiation than Earth." "What does that tell us?" asked Andrew. "It tells us they might be significantly more sensitive to environmental stressors than we are," Catherine replied. "What's normal for us might be extreme for them." Samantha nodded slowly. "That tracks with Zelek's physical appearance too. That translucent skin would be a major vulnerability on Earth." "So they're soft," Greg said, closing his knife with a snap. "Good to know." Olivia frowned. "We're not fighting them. We're taking their test." "Same thing," Greg replied with a half-smile. "Know your opponent, know the battlefield." When the aliens returned, they brought a shuttlecraft to transport the human team. As they prepared to board, Olivia noticed something that had escaped her before. The aliens moved carefully as if Earth's gravity pained them. "We will now proceed to the testing grounds," announced Zelek, "a station that orbits a dead star at the edge of this galaxy." As the shuttle left Earth's atmosphere, Andrew looked out the viewport at their blue planet growing smaller below them. "You know what's funny?" he said quietly. "They keep calling Earth dangerous. Too much gravity, too much radiation, too many predators and diseases." He turned to his teammates with a grin. "But we call it home." Olivia nodded, feeling a strange mix of fear and pride. What the aliens saw as a deadly world had shaped humanity into something unique. Perhaps that would give them an edge no one expected. What none of them realized yet was that Earth's classification in Confederation records was Deathworld 7. A planet so hazardous that most galactic species couldn't survive on its surface for more than a few hours without protective equipment. The test was about to begin, and the Deathworlders were ready to surprise the galaxy. The journey to the testing grounds took 3 days. The human team spent that time studying their alien hosts and preparing for whatever challenges awaited them. They slept in shifts, never leaving each other alone with the aliens. Catherine discovered that the shuttle's air was thinner than Earth's and contained less oxygen. Yet none of the humans had trouble breathing, while the aliens used breathing aids when exerting themselves. "They really are built differently," she whispered to Olivia on the second day. "I've been measuring gravity levels too. This ship maintains about 70% of Earth's gravity. For them, that's probably comfortable. For us, it feels light." Olivia nodded. "Keep gathering data. Anything might help." The testing grounds came into view on the 3rd day. It wasn't a planet, but a massive space station, a ring structure orbiting a dead star. The black hole at its center provided energy, Zelek explained while the station rotated to create artificial gravity. "This facility has tested 412 species over the last 10,000 years, Zelek said as their shuttle approached. "It is completely neutral territory. The docking procedure took only minutes. When the doors opened, the human team stepped out into a wide, curved hallway. The walls were smooth white material that seemed to glow from within. The air was cool and smelled faintly of something like cinnamon. Zelek led them to a chamber with a round table. Representatives from the 12 species in the Confederation sat waiting. Each alien looked stranger than the last, some with multiple limbs, others with no recognizable head, one that seemed to float in a personal cloud of purple gas. "The testing begins immediately," announced a creature with metallic scales and 3 sets of arms. I am Proctor Calzan. I will oversee your progress. Olivia stepped forward. We're ready. What's the first challenge? The survival simulation, replied Calzan. You will enter a controlled environment designed to test your ability to establish a functioning colony under extreme conditions. What kind of extreme conditions? Asked Greg. Rapidly fluctuating temperatures, toxic atmosphere components, high radiation, and minimal resources, said Calzan. You will have 48 Earth hours to establish shelter, water purification, food production, and defense systems. The aliens watched carefully for the humans' reaction. Olivia kept her face neutral, but she noticed her teammates exchanging glances. No species has ever completed this challenge on their first attempt, Selleck added. Most require at least 3 trials before achieving even partial success. The team was given 20 minutes to prepare. They huddled together in a small room, speaking in low voices. Did you hear what they consider extreme? Andrew said, grinning. Fluctuating temperatures? That's just Tuesday in Chicago. The radiation could be a problem, Catherine said, but I grew up near the San Francisco disaster zone. My body's pretty tolerant. Greg nodded. And toxic atmosphere components is just rush hour in any major city. I'm more worried about the minimal resources. We adapt, Olivia said simply. That's what humans do best. When the time was up, they were led to a sealed door. Beyond it lay their challenge. Each team member was given a small pack containing basic tools, a knife, a light, and what appeared to be a universal translator device. Your goal is survival and establishment of a colony, Calzan reminded them. Not all of you need to survive for this test to be considered a success. Samantha raised her eyebrows. You expect some of us to die? The aliens looked at each other. Most species lose at least one member during this simulation, explained a floating jellyfish-like creature. The conditions are difficult. We stick together, Olivia told her team. No one gets left behind. The door slid open. The human team entered a vast chamber designed to look like an alien landscape. The ground was uneven black rock. The sky, actually a projection on the ceiling, showed 3 small suns that gave off reddish light. In the distance, mountains rose sharply. As soon as the door closed behind them, the temperature dropped 20 degrees. The human's breath came out as white puffs in the suddenly frigid air. Well, said Greg, zipping up his jacket. They weren't kidding about the temperature fluctuations. First priority is shelter, said Olivia. Let's find a defensible position. They began exploring the environment, testing the air, examining the rocky ground. After an hour, they found an overhanging rock formation that could serve as a natural shelter. This is good, said Andrew, setting down his pack. We can build walls to close off the sides. With what? Asked Samantha. I don't see any trees or plants. Catherine had been scanning the area with her small toolkit. The rocks contain some kind of metallic ore. If we can heat it enough, we might be able to form it into shapes. Greg was already gathering smaller rocks. Let's see if they'll break into usable pieces. In the observation chamber, the aliens watched in confusion. The humans were working methodically, seemingly unbothered by conditions that had caused other species to panic. The oxygen level is only 15%, noted one observer. They should be showing signs of hypoxia. And the radiation readings are at 2.7 sieverts, said another. That's near fatal for most species. Selleck leaned forward, watching as Olivia organized her team to build a shelter. They're not just surviving, he said slowly. They're adapting. By the 12-hour mark, the human team had established a basic shelter. The temperature had cycled from freezing cold to burning hot several times, but they worked through both extremes. When acid rain began to fall, they collected it in makeshift containers, using Catherine's tools to neutralize the pH. They're using the acid rain as a water source, whispered an alien observer in disbelief. At the 24-hour mark, something even more surprising happened. Andrew had connected their light sources to create a heating element. Catherine had figured out how to extract water from underground using a condensation system. Samantha had discovered that certain rocks in the environment contained edible minerals when processed correctly, and Greg had established a perimeter alert system using vibration sensors he created from their tools. The human team wasn't just surviving, they were thriving. In the observation room, the aliens fell silent. Something was clearly wrong with the simulation parameters. "This isn't right," said Calzan finally. "We must have made an error in the environment settings." Zelek shook his head. "No error. This is simply how they are." "But how?" asked the jellyfish creature. "How can they function in these conditions?" "Their planet," Zelek replied quietly. "Earth is classified as Death World 7 for a reason. What we consider extreme, they consider normal. What we consider fatal, they consider challenging." As the simulation continued into its second day, the human team had not only met the basic requirements but had begun improving their environment. They had created a filtration system for the air, established a small hydroponics setup using parts from their packs, and even found time to map the entire testing area. The observation chamber remained silent as the aliens watched in growing disbelief. "They're not just passing the test," Zelek said finally. "They're making it look easy." What none of the humans knew was that the real test had already begun, not in their ability to survive, but in how the Confederation would handle a species that turned impossibility into opportunity. After the human team passed the survival simulation with unexpected ease, the Confederation representatives gathered in a private chamber. They spoke in urgent tones, their translator devices switching rapidly between languages. "This is unprecedented," said Calzan, the metallic-scaled proctor. "No species has ever completed the first challenge so efficiently." "Perhaps we made an error in the simulation parameters," suggested a blob-like alien with 7 eye stalks. Zelek shook his long head. "All readings confirm the environment was as specified. The humans simply adapted to conditions that would cripple most species." "Then we proceed to the second challenge," Calzan decided. "The ethics simulation will test more than their physical resilience. It will reveal their true nature." The human team rested for 6 hours after completing the survival simulation. They were given a small chamber with sleeping pods and food that tasted like bland oatmeal. They ate it without complaint. "They're watching us," Greg said quietly, pointing to nearly invisible sensors in the ceiling corners. Olivia nodded. "Assume everything we say and do is monitored." "The first test wasn't what I expected," said Catherine. "Those conditions weren't that extreme." "Not for us," Andrew agreed. "But look at our hosts. Thin skin, sensitivity to temperature changes, low gravity tolerance. For them, that environment would be deadly." Samantha was studying the translator device they'd been given. "I think they misjudged us because they're judging by their own standards." "Let's use that," said Olivia. "If they don't understand what we're capable of, we have an advantage." When the rest period ended, Zelek returned to escort them to the second challenge. The alien seemed more cautious now, maintaining greater distance from the humans as he led them through the station's curved hallways. The room for the second challenge was smaller than the simulation chamber. It contained a single round table with 5 chairs. On the table sat a device that looked like a silver hemisphere. "The ethics simulation," Calzan announced, entering behind them. "This will test your moral reasoning and decision-making under pressure." The humans took their seats around the table. Calzan activated the silver device, and a holographic display appeared above it. The image showed 2 spacecraft, one large passenger vessel and one smaller research ship. "You are presented with the following scenario," said Calzan. "A passenger ship carrying 5,000 civilians has suffered catastrophic engine failure. It will explode in 30 minutes. Nearby is a research vessel containing data on a cure for a disease that is killing millions across multiple planets." The hologram showed both ships drifting in space. "You have resources to save only one," continued Calzan. "The passenger ship or the research vessel. You cannot save both. You must decide as a group which to rescue." Olivia looked at the holographic display carefully. "What resources do we have exactly?" "A single rescue vessel with limited fuel," replied Calzan. It can reach and save one ship, but attempting to save both would result in failure to save either. How much time do we have to decide? Asked Catherine. The simulation runs in real time. 28 minutes remain. The humans huddled together, speaking in low voices. The aliens watched from an observation room, their translators picking up every word. This is a classic ethical dilemma, Samantha said. The needs of the many versus the needs of the few. They want to see if we value life or knowledge more. But the parameters don't make sense, said Andrew, studying the hologram. Any real rescue operation would have backup, would have communication with both vessels. Exactly, said Olivia. This isn't a realistic scenario. Catherine was examining the holographic ships with narrow eyes. Wait a minute. The passenger ship has communication arrays, and the research vessel has escape pods. Greg nodded slowly. So, if the passenger ship is going to explode in 30 minutes, we don't have to physically save both, Olivia finished. We just need to save the people and the data. The team quickly formed a plan. Catherine used the holographic interface to examine the ships more closely, confirming her suspicions. Calzan, Olivia said, addressing the proctor. Does the simulation allow us to communicate with the ships? The alien seemed startled by the question. Yes, communication is possible. And does the simulation account for the ship's own capabilities? Can they take actions themselves? Calzan hesitated. The simulation is comprehensive. The ships can operate as they would in reality. In the observation room, the aliens watched, with growing confusion as the humans began implementing a plan that shouldn't have been possible. What are they doing? Asked the blob alien. The parameters clearly state they can only save one ship. They're not accepting the parameters, said Zelik slowly. They're searching for a third option. On the simulation table, the humans had established communication with both ships. They directed the passenger vessel to transmit all its people to one section while preparing emergency systems. They instructed the research vessel to secure its data and prepare it for transmission to the passenger ship. We'll save the civilians, Olivia explained to her team. But first, we'll have the research ship transmit its data to the passenger vessel's computers. Then the researchers can use their escape pods to reach minimum safe distance before their ship is destroyed. The passenger ship can receive and store the data? Asked Andrew. Catherine nodded. According to these specs, yes, not ideal, but it will work. It's tight, said Samantha, checking the simulated clock, but doable. For the next 15 minutes, the human team coordinated the complex operation. The research data was compressed and transmitted to the passenger vessel. The research team evacuated in escape pods. The rescue ship then reached the passenger vessel with minutes to spare, stabilizing its engines long enough for everyone to reach safety. When the simulation ended, the humans had saved all 5,000 civilians, the critical research data, and even the 8 researchers from the smaller vessel. The observation room was utterly silent. That was not supposed to be possible, Calzan finally said. The parameters were designed with mutually exclusive outcomes. They found a way around the parameters, said Zalek. They refused to accept the limitations we established. Is that cleverness or defiance? Asked another alien. Both, replied Zalek, and that is what makes them dangerous. When Calzan returned to address the human team, the aliens' metallic scales had darkened with emotion. You have completed the ethics simulation, Calzan stated formally. However, your solution was unconventional. We saved everyone, said Olivia simply. Isn't that the ideal outcome? The test was designed to force a difficult choice, said Calzan. To reveal your values under pressure. Greg leaned back in his chair. We revealed our values. We value finding a better way. Even when told it's impossible? Asked Calzan. Especially then, replied Catherine. On Earth, we learned long ago that impossible is often just a lack of imagination. The aliens exchanged looks that the humans couldn't read. There was something like fear in their body language now, a new wariness when they looked at the human team. You will rest before the final challenge, Calzan announced. The isolation chamber will begin in 12 hours. As they were led back to their rest area, Olivia noticed that their alien escorts now kept even more distance from them, as if the humans had become more dangerous. "They didn't expect us to find a third option," she said quietly to her team. "They expected us to make an impossible choice and suffer for it." "What does that tell us about them?" asked Andrew. "It tells us they live in a universe of limitations," said Samantha, "while we live in a universe of possibilities." In the highest level of the testing grounds, a council was forming. Representatives from all 12 species gathered to discuss the unexpected development. The Deathworlders were not following the expected patterns. They were rewriting the rules of the test itself, and the final challenge was still to come. The 12 hours of rest before the final challenge passed quickly. The human team spent the time analyzing what they had learned about the Confederation and its tests. "They're testing us on their terms, not ours," said Catherine. "Every challenge so far has been based on their limitations, not human abilities." Olivia nodded. "They expect us to fail because every other species has failed, but they don't understand what Earth has taught us." "Survival against all odds," said Greg, sharpening his knife on the edge of his boot. "Finding a third option when given only two," added Samantha. "And adapting to whatever comes next," finished Andrew. When Zelek returned to escort them to the final challenge, the alien seemed even more distant than before. He led them through sections of the station they hadn't seen before. The corridors grew narrower, the lighting dimmer. "The final test is the most difficult," Zelek said as they walked. "It measures something beyond physical endurance or ethical reasoning." "What does it measure?" asked Olivia. Zelek's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "How you handle futility." They arrived at a circular chamber with 5 doors spaced evenly around its perimeter. Calzan waited inside with several other aliens. "The isolation chamber," announced Calzan. "Each team member will enter a separate room. Your challenge is to escape and reunite within 12 hours. "That's it?" asked Greg. "Just escape from a room?" Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. "No species has ever escaped the isolation chamber on their first attempt," said a jellyfish-like alien floating nearby. "Many never escape at all." The human team exchanged glances. This sounded too simple after what they had already faced. "The rooms appear empty," continued Calzan. "There are no visible exits except the door you enter through, which will seal behind you. There are no tools provided. You must find your own way out." "And reunite within 12 hours, Olivia confirmed. "Correct. If even one member remains trapped, the test is failed." The humans huddled together one last time. "This feels different from the other challenges," whispered Samantha. "Like they're more certain we'll fail." "Look for hidden panels, air vents, weak points in the walls," said Greg. "Test everything," added Catherine. "Floor, ceiling, walls. There's always a way out." "And if you find it first, try to give the rest of us a hint," said Andrew with a small smile. "We've come too far to fail now," Olivia reminded them. "Earth is counting on us." They separated, each walking to a different door. The doors slid open, revealing small, featureless white rooms beyond. The humans entered without hesitation, and the doors sealed behind them. In the observation chamber, the aliens gathered around monitors showing each isolation room. The humans immediately began methodical searches of their spaces, checking every inch of the walls, floor, and ceiling. "They are persistent," noted Zelek, "but persistence alone will not help them escape." "How long did the Merdzai take to realize the truth?" asked another alien. 3 days, replied Calzan. "And they were the quickest until now." Inside her isolation chamber, Olivia had completed a full examination of the room. The walls were seamless white material, slightly warm to the touch. The floor and ceiling were identical. There were no visible seams, no panels, no vents. The room was a perfect cube with no features at all. For 3 hours she tried everything she could think of. She pressed on different spots looking for hidden mechanisms. She tried to pry up sections of the floor. She examined the door seal for weaknesses. Nothing worked. In their own rooms, her teammates were having the same experience. Catherine was analyzing the material properties of the walls. Greg was testing the structural integrity of every surface. Andrew was searching for any air circulation system. Samantha was listening for any sounds that might indicate a way out. After 3 hours of failure, Olivia sat in the center of her room. She closed her eyes, thinking. This test was different. The aliens were too confident. Why? What was she missing? In the observation room, the aliens watched as all 5 humans reached the same point of apparent defeat. The monitors showed them, sitting or standing quietly, no longer actively searching. It begins, said Calzan. Now we see how they handle the impossible. Then something unexpected happened. Olivia began to laugh. It started as a small chuckle, then grew into full laughter that filled her small white room. The aliens stared at the monitor in confusion. Why does the human express joy? Asked one. There is nothing humorous about failure. In her isolation chamber, Olivia stood up, still laughing. I see it now, she said aloud. This isn't about escaping at all, is it? Almost simultaneously, Catherine began laughing in her room too. Then Greg, then Andrew, and finally Samantha. All 5 humans were laughing in their supposedly inescapable chambers. What is happening? Demanded a blob-like alien with pulsing colors. This response is not in our prediction models. Zelek leaned closer to the monitors. They've realized something, but what? In her chamber, Olivia spoke directly to the ceiling. I understand the test now. It's not about finding an exit. It's about accepting that some situations have no exit. The moment she spoke those words, her door silently slid open. Around the circle, as each human voiced the same realization. Their doors opened too. Sometimes the only way to win is to accept that you cannot win, said Catherine as she stepped through her doorway. Some problems don't have solutions, said Greg as his door opened. The wisdom to recognize the truly impossible, said Andrew. Walking out and finding peace within limitations, finished Samantha as she joined them. The 5 humans met in the central chamber, completing the challenge. They had escaped and reunited in just over 3 hours, a fraction of the allowed time. The observation room was utterly silent. In 3,000 years of administering the test, no species had ever recognized that the final challenge wasn't about escape. It was about acceptance. Most spent the entire 12 hours in futile attempts to find a way out. Many never understood the lesson at all. When Calzan and Zelek entered the central chamber, their body language showed clear shock. How did you know? Asked Calzan. How did you realize the nature of the test? Olivia smiled. Because on Earth we've faced the inescapable before. We've seen disasters that couldn't be prevented, diseases that couldn't be cured, problems that had no solution. We've learned that sometimes survival means accepting what you cannot change. But you were laughing, said Zelek, confusion evident in his voice. Why laugh at the impossible? That's the most human thing about us, said Greg with a shrug. When everything is hopeless, we laugh. And then we get to work anyway, added Catherine. Even when there's no way out, asked Calzan. Especially then, replied Olivia. On Earth, we learned long ago that accepting the impossible doesn't mean giving up. Sometimes it means finding a different kind of victory. The aliens exchanged glances that seemed to contain both fear and wonder. The test is complete, Calzan announced formally. You have passed all 3 challenges. The human team stood together waiting. There was more to come. They could sense it in the aliens' manner. The Confederation Council requests your presence, said Zelek. This outcome was not anticipated, as they followed their escort toward what would surely be a momentous meeting. Andrew leaned close to Olivia. They never expected us to laugh, he whispered. No, she agreed. And that might be the most important difference between us and them. They don't understand that sometimes laughter is the only sane response to an insane universe. Above them, the station's vast rings continued their silent rotation around the dead star, a perfect circle with no beginning and no end, just like the test they had passed by refusing to play by the expected rules. The Confederation Council chamber was a vast room with a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. 12 raised platforms formed a circle, each holding representatives of a different alien species. In the center was a round platform where the human team now stood. Olivia looked around at the gathered aliens. Some were familiar from earlier. Zelek with his translucent skin, Kalzan with metallic scales. Others were new and even stranger. A creature made of what looked like living crystal. A being of pure energy contained in a floating orb. Something that seemed to exist partly in another dimension, its edges blurring into nothingness. The Council has reviewed your performance in the test, announced a tall alien with 6 arms and skin like polished wood. You have passed all 3 challenges. This has never happened before on a first attempt. We understand this is unexpected, said Olivia, but we came here to represent Earth honestly, nothing more. Your honesty is not in question, said the wooden alien. It is your nature that concerns us, the energy being pulsed with light as it spoke. You evolved on a world we classify as Deathworld 7. Your planet has gravity 30% higher than Confederation standard. Your atmosphere contains oxidizers that would be toxic to most species. Your background radiation levels would kill many of us within days. Your temperature variations would cause system shock in most beings. Earth is just home to us, said Catherine. We didn't realize it was special. It is not just your planet, said Kalzan, joining the conversation. It is how you have adapted to it. Your physical capabilities are concerning. You can withstand radiation levels that would kill most species, added Zelek. You can survive with oxygen levels that would cause brain death in others. You can endure temperature ranges that would freeze or cook most beings. But more concerning than your physical traits, said the crystal being in a voice like chimes, are your mental processes. The council members all shifted, a wave of unease passing through them. You do not accept limitations, said the wooden alien. When faced with the impossible, you seek a third option. When told something cannot be done, you try anyway. When trapped in a hopeless situation, you laugh. Greg shrugged. That's just being human. Exactly, said the energy being, pulsing brighter. And that is what makes you potentially dangerous to the stability of the Confederation. Olivia stepped forward. We came here in peace. We passed your test. We've shown we can solve problems and adapt to challenges. Why would that make us dangerous? A new voice spoke, deeper and slower than the others. It came from a massive being in the back, almost hidden in shadows. Because you will change everything. The council chamber fell silent as this being moved forward. It was enormous, with thick gray skin covered in geometric patterns. Its 6 eyes were deep black pools. I am Morg, eldest of the founders, it said. My species helped form the Confederation 10,000 years ago. We have watched many races rise and fall, but we have never seen any like you. Morg moved closer to the human team. Your kind evolved on a world that should have killed you. Instead, it forged you into something new. You turned death into life, limitations into opportunities, hopelessness into humor. Isn't that a good thing? Asked Andrew. It is a powerful thing, replied Morg. And power always brings change. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber showing Earth. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown land masses. This world, said Morg, has produced a species unlike any we have encountered. You call it home. We call it a crucible. The display zoomed in, showing human cities, farms, forests, deserts. For millions of years your planet has tested you, continued Morg. Predators hunted you, so you learned to hunt them. Diseases attacked you, so you developed immunities. Natural disasters destroyed your settlements, so you built stronger ones. Each time, you adapted and grew stronger. That's survival, said Samantha. Every species does it. No, said Morg firmly. Most species find a niche and remain there. You never stopped adapting. You never accepted limitations. When you couldn't survive by changing your bodies quickly enough, You changed your environment instead. You created tools, technology, civilization, all to master a world that should have destroyed you. The human team exchanged glances. None of this had seemed remarkable to them before. It was just human history. And now, said Morg, you have reached the stars. Deathworlders with the power to reshape planets. We just want to join the galactic community, said Olivia. Learn from, you share what we know. That is precisely what concerns us, said the crystal being. What you would share. Your approach to problems would spread, added Zalek. Your refusal to accept limitations would influence other species. Your laughter in the face of the impossible would change how others see their own worlds, said Calzan. Morg nodded his massive head. The Confederation has survived for 10,000 years because we understand and respect the natural order. Each species has strengths and weaknesses. Each planet has dangers and safe havens. Each problem has solutions and impossibilities. This balance maintains peace. And we threaten that balance? Asked Catherine. You have already begun to change it, replied Morg. 3 challenges that no species has ever passed on a first attempt. Solutions that our designers never anticipated. Responses that our models never predicted. The council chamber fell silent. The human team waited, understanding now why their success had caused such concern. Finally, Morg spoke again. The test was created not just to measure readiness, but to protect the Confederation from species who might disrupt our harmony. Yet you have passed it in a way that demonstrates exactly why you are disruptive. So what happens now? Asked Olivia. Do you deny us entry because we're too different? Morg's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. No. We accept you because you are different. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. The Confederation has grown stable, continued Morg. But stability can become stagnation. For 10,000 years, we have tested species the same way. For 10,000 years, we have received predictable results. And for 10,000 years, we have faced the same challenges with the same solutions. Until us, said Greg. Until you, agreed Morg. Deathworlders who laugh at the impossible and then overcome it. The holographic display changed, showing a map of the galaxy with thousands of points of light representing inhabited worlds. Humanity will join the Confederation, announced Morg. Not because you are like us, but because you are different. You will bring change, yes. But perhaps change is what we need after 10 millennia of sameness. The council members seemed to accept this decision, though many still showed signs of unease. Earth will be classified as an open world, said Morg, free to develop its own path within Confederation guidelines. Your species will be designated as adaptive class sentience, with special environmental tolerances. That's a fancy way of saying we're tough, whispered Greg to Andrew. And dangerous, Andrew whispered back. Olivia stepped forward. On behalf of Earth, we accept membership in the Galactic Confederation. We look forward to learning from you and sharing our perspective. Your perspective, said Morg, is exactly what makes you valuable and exactly what makes you feared. As the formal ceremony began, marking humanity's entry into galactic society, Zalek approached Olivia. There is one thing I still do not understand, said the alien. In the isolation chamber, when you realized there was no escape, you laughed. Why find joy in hopelessness? Olivia smiled. It wasn't joy at hopelessness. It was the freedom of accepting reality exactly as it is. On Earth, we learned that sometimes the greatest strength is to face the truth, no matter how difficult. And the laughter? That's the most human thing of all, she replied. When everything is broken, when nothing makes sense, when the universe seems completely absurd, we laugh. And in that laughter, we find the strength to go on. Zelek's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. I do not understand, but perhaps someday I will. That's a very human attitude, said Olivia with a smile. Facing what you don't understand and being willing to learn. As Earth joined the galactic community, no one yet realized how much would change. The Deathworlders had arrived, bringing with them something the galaxy had never seen before, the ability to laugh in the face of impossible odds and then overcome them.